All good? Okay, everybody, I've called the meeting to order. Welcome everybody, to those online, to staff and the public. I see Anthony is here, or Tony's here from Reefton. Welcome. And we have one public forum speaker today. That is Mandy Coleman. So Caitlin's just getting that organised. Just to remind everybody, I know we're all having the same issue. Just remember to push your buttons when you speak. That'd be great. Yeah. Okay, hi Mandy. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine, thank you.
Sweet, cool.
Okay, Mandy, you've got 5 minutes.
Cool. So, kia ora koutou. Good to see you all looking busy there. Ko Mandy Coleman aho no Mokahanui aho. So I live in Mokanui and I've been here for about, I don't know, 40 odd years or something. I think I'm almost a local, but I'm not sure. Husband definitely is. Anyhow, I'm on the Mokahanui Reserve and Hall subcommittee. And I wanted to speak to, I believe there's a governance structure being put in place and being voted on today. So I wanted to speak to that. We currently have Tony O'Keefe as our elected council support member, whatever you call her. And I believe it's really important to keep some consistency. We've had quite a lot of ups and downs in the community here. And Tony's been doing a fantastic job supporting us. And I was a little bit upset to hear that she may not be able to continue that, and wanted to speak to that. Yeah, and I also have a letter here from our treasurer who's written some things which I wanted to read because she's put all my words into writing. So I can read that out. So apologies, this is from Faye Spillane. She also is a Mokanui resident and she's our treasurer. Apologies for not being able to attend this meeting in person. I wish to put forward my thoughts on the Mokahanui subcommittee as treasurer. I have seen a number of changes over the past 6 years and can honestly say the structure that it's been run under at present is the best I've seen it. We've achieved so much over the past 3 years in the day-to-day running of the campground, signage, recycling, management of sites, allotment numbers, capacity, online booking system, accounts run through Xero, and making it way easier for council end-of-year audits. And the general camp caretakers' responsibilities have flourished. The garden's amazing. The whole place is looking amazing. The subcommittee involvement has reduced because they're doing such a fantastic job. And it's really not hard to see the difference when driving into the reserve and campground. This has been helped along by an outstanding local councillor, Tony O'Keefe, with her knowledge of the community and insight into council structure. And she has actually stepped up to chair our meetings as there hasn't been an availability of volunteers to fill these positions, which I'm sure you are all aware of the lack of interest in volunteering your free time these days. My advice, this is from Faye, to council is to leave everything as it stands today, as it's a winning combination for BDC. Why make changes when the proof is in front of you? So that's some words from Faye, and I agree with what she's saying. The thing that I am really concerned about is the stability. If there's more changes, then potentially that could affect the group. And there's been quite a lot of lots of ups and downs over the past few years. So, I think that's mainly, hold on, there might be something else on my other bit of paper. And I think it's important to acknowledge our volunteers because that's what we are. And we do it because we care about our community. And it's been really great. And I just feel we need to be consulted about it as well, like the people we work with. Yeah, so I think that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Excuse me, everybody. I've still got a bad throat. Thanks very much, Mandy, taking the time to come and speak with us today. And thank you for your time and the committee's time too. Everything that you, the committee, and the locals who are supporting you do is much appreciated. And you're all volunteers, and you know, we couldn't do it without you. So thank you for the time and dedication. I'll open it up to the other councillors to see whether they've got any questions of you.
Cool.
Councillor Webb.
Hi, Mandy. Just a question. How important do you think it is for the subcommittee to have someone from the Seddon ward representing them on the Mokanui committee?
I think it's actually of utmost importance, to be honest, because yeah, I mean, there's the local knowledge, you know, and we have a lot of small communities here, and I think there's different cultures even in Westport compared to Mokanui, you know, like, so I think it's great. And the thing that I really like about, I mean, Tony doesn't actually live in Mokanui, she lives just up the road, and that can make quite a, you know, there's some neutrality there as well, which really helps. Yeah, so yeah, I think it is important.
Great.
It's about understanding the issues as well, you know, and the complexity of the issues, rural stuff. Yeah.
Councillor Hingston.
Interesting. Sorry.
Hi, Dave Hingston, how are you?
Sorry?
Sorry, this is Councillor Dave Hingston. I just asked how you were.
Oh, cool. Yep. We're good.
Well, thanks for that. I did have a question in relation to, you said you had challenges in the past and you're now in a position to meet those challenges much better than you previously have been. And that's, to summarise your situation, you believe that the current councillor, Tony, is best left there and best left intact going forward so that you've got that continuity. So how has that been a winning formula in the past for you?
So say that again. How?
Having Tony there been a winning formula for the Mokanui area in the past?
How's it been a winning formula? Like local knowledge, but also Tony has the ability to step in when she needs to, because there has been, you know, when there's a challenge, when there's people that, you know, there have been people that have actually broached, you know, the code of conduct or whatever at meetings, you know, so she's actually has the ability to do that in a way that's not like, I don't know, in a way that doesn't put people down, you know, it's just clarity. And I think that's really, I've really appreciated that, because it keeps people, you know, on track. This is what we're doing. This is how we behave. This is what we need to do to get to where we need to go, you know, with our goals and stuff. So, you know, we have strategic goals now. We never had, you know, I've been on the committee for like, I think it's about 10 years, and I can't remember actually. But anyway, you know, we've never had that before. We've never had a strategic plan, you know, like, and so, you know, and I mean, we've all been, you know, we've been all working on that to make, you know, make this place, you know, make it a great thing in terms of the reserve and the campground as well. So, yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Barry.
Hi, Mandy. Shane Barry here. Just,
I
was chair of the Cutters Beach Reserve Board. I still am, but I am stepping down from that position at our next formal meeting, because it does become a slight conflict when we are governance, and I'm chair of the community committee and Tony will be a deputy chair of the community committee. Is there anyone in your group that's willing to step up to take over the chair role? Because in my mind, it could become a conflict when there's funding applications, or that it's just not the ideal situation, particularly when we're both on the community committee and we sit above the subcommittees.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying, and I think the understanding with Tony was that she was acting chair till somebody else came on board. We had previously, we've had chair people before, and when they resigned, then or the last person, then that's basically what happened. And I think, I mean, she's doing a fantastic job, regardless of whether she's chair or not. I don't know if we've had some new people come on board, so they are just settling in, and I'm not sure in terms of whether they would take it on or whether they would have the skills to take it on, because it actually will take quite a bit of skill and facilitation skills to do the role. So yeah, at this stage I'm not sure whether, but I'd still not like to lose her regardless of whether she was chair or not, like from the committee. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mandy, I've got excuse me, I've got a question. So is your concern losing Tony as the chair or losing Tony as the council representative?
Well, it's both really. I mean, at this point it's the chair as well, because we don't have another chair. And like I said, we've got new people on board, so there's a settling in process happening, and it's also to do with, there's been a lot of community conflict. So, as to who can be chair, to be neutral is a tricky situation. So it's actually both. I mean, yeah. But I mean, if it is that we would have to lose her as chair, I would still be really keen to have her on our committee.
So you could find somebody else to do the chair as well.
I mean, that's been our plan all along. It's just we haven't got there yet, but yeah, we're working on it.
Okay, thanks, Mandy. Has anybody else got any questions? Okay, thanks, Mandy, for coming to speak with us. Very much appreciated, and thank you for all the work you do.
Cool. Thank you. Good luck. Have a good meeting.
Yeah, before you go, we'll discuss this at the end of the meeting, and we'll come back with a written response for you.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for that, everybody. So we'll open the meeting formally. Okay, now that any apologies? I don't think so. So there's no apologies received. Would somebody like to move that? Well, we've got no apologies, so can we move that? Oh, for Francois, there's an apology. So would somebody like to move? We accept all second. Dave Hawes, thank you. Okay, all those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, members' interests. Okay, does anybody have anything to declare? Okay, draft recommendations, members to close any financial and non-financial interest, any of the agenda items. Nobody's had anything to declare. So would somebody like to move that that be accepted? Oh, too many hands going up. Okay, there was Tony and sorry.
Yeah.
I think from what I know, and Simon might correct me, that it's up to you to declare a conflict. Is that right? No? No, I don't think. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're safe. Okay, would somebody like to move that? Councillor O'Keefe. Councillor Reynolds, thank you. And all those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 3.1 on the agenda, we've got the confirmation of previous minutes. Okay, we'll open that for discussion. Are there any amendments? So before we start, I'd just like to welcome Councillor Reedy, who's sitting there on screen. Welcome, Colin. I go back to 3.1, so confirmation of the minutes. Are there any amendments that we need to make to that? Everybody's happy? Okay, so I'll move that the council receive and confirm the public minutes from the inaugural meeting on the 29th of October 25 and the extraordinary meeting, council meeting on 10th of November 25. Have a seconder? Councillor Barry. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Sampson? Yeah, okay, that's unanimous, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda.
Excuse me,
Oh, sorry.
but Mr. Mayor, I'm happy about confirming that they were true and correct record, but we didn't have any discussion around it. I do have a question.
Okay,
We adopted a start time of 3:30. Why are we starting at 4:30 today?
Through the chair, it was the previous briefings and the availability of Mataro, I believe, that pushed it out just for today. It's unusual.
Councillor Rob.
Mr. Mayor, the briefing finished at 4:45. There's a 3/4 of an hour difference here.
That's true. It was just through they were actually booked until 4 o'clock, I believe, or 4:15. So they just took quicker than we expected.
Okay, thank you. I move that Councillor Barry has seconded. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Rutherford, were you for? Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, the end of Triennium Minutes. We'll open that for discussion. No discussion. Phil? All good? Everything good? No questions? Okay.
So go back.
Okay, 4.1. You have to just bear with me. I'm in learning mode. Where was that in there, Chloe? Oh, okay, that's okay. Okay, so 4.1, we just had a difference in paperwork compared to the screen. So item 4.1 was the action points report prepared by Simon Pickford. The recommendation is the council receive the action points report for information. Simon, would you like to address that at all?
No, happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions? Yep, Councillor Webb.
In terms of the Punakaiki camping ground, obviously we've been tracking this for a long time, and then I see that it will be brought to a future council meeting. When is that future council meeting?
Mr. Blom, comment on the Punakaiki campground timing?
So I don't have a timing on that yet. That's a conversation we need to have with corporate to clarify that issue.
We will come back to the council though for the next couple of days.
We can do that. Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Sampson.
On the same issue, Punakaiki Camping Grounds, I was of the understanding that their lease arrangement renewal was due November, which we're just about there and past. And it was going to be coming back to council as far as what that lease was. Obviously not confidential.
Through the chair, my understanding was, and I can clarify this once we can catch up with corporate later, I believe that it was a rent review that was due in November. Paul was dealing that before he left, so we'll just double check what that is. The full lease I don't believe is up until 2033, but I'll clarify that and we'll send that around following this meeting.
Sorry, I just didn't catch that you're saying that it was due in November.
Through the chair, I believe it was a rent review, not the full lease review. It was just the rent review. So I can clarify that and come back.
You're correct. It is a rent review, and councillors were going to be informed as to what that rent review was going to be.
Chrissy, okay. Okay, any other questions? Councillor Webb.
In terms of the asset management plan, have we seen that asset management plan report that was due for completion on the 30th of June?
Sorry, can you just clarify which asset management report?
It says on here, update March 2025, asset management plan report due for completion the 30th of June 2025. Has that been completed and will we be able to view that?
Sorry, my screen's just gone blank, so that's not helping me. I will, through the chair, I'll come back to you on that. I believe all of those reports are complete, but I need to check on that specific one.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll get back here. Okay, so the recommendation is that we're back on this one, aren't we? That one there, okay. Okay, the council receives the action points report for information. Would somebody like to move that? Councillor Sampson, second Councillor Hankston. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? That's unanimous. Thank you. Did you vote, Ray? Good. Thank you. Okay. Right. Now we're back on order. In order, rather. Okay, so now we're at the end of the Triennium Minutes. Okay, we'll open that. The draft recommendation is that the End of Triennium Minutes report dated 25th of November 2025 be received. We'll open that for discussion. Councillor Rutherford.
I'll move that way, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Barry. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 5.2, District Licensing Committee Chair appointment. There's quite a few recommendations there, 1 through 6. So I'm happy to take those as read, unless anybody's got any objection to that, and open it for discussion. Sorry, it's a Bronwyn to speak to. Okay, well, thank you. Thanks, Simon. So we'll ask Bronwyn to speak to that.
Thank you, Worship. This is regarding the District Licensing Committee, which is set up under the Sale and Supply of Liquor Act, and district councils administer those committees. They deal with the sale and supply of alcohol to the public, both individuals and premises, and there's quite a few things that they deal with in terms of licenses, which is set out in paragraph 7. We need at least 3 appointed members, including the chair. We currently have 5 list members, which were appointed just this year, with 3 back in, I think it was June, July, 3 sitting councillors, including Councillor Webb, Farlett and Basher, and we also appointed 2 members from the community. The position of chair has been held by Mr. Nayland, former Councillor Nayland, since 2013. The chair can be either an elected member or a commissioner from outside of council. Mr. Nayland, of course, did not seek re-election, but has indicated that he's going to be happy to stay on in the role until a new chair can be appointed. So as they either need to be an elected member or a commissioner, because Councillor Mr. Nayland is no longer an elected member, we need to appoint him as a commissioner. And we would do that effective from the date of the election, which would be the 10th of October. The next question would be, given that Mr. Nayland is not going to spend a long time in this position, or council needs to appoint a chair, which would either be an elected member, who could be appointed today if there was interest, or a commissioner from the community. And there would be a process to call for expressions of interest for that. And there's one other issue where at the moment we don't have a deputy chair. The deputy chair can sit in for the actual chair, be they elected member or commissioner, if they are unable to attend to their duties, and that needs to be an elected member. So our recommendations as staff is that we go out to the community to see if we can get an interested and qualified commissioner with the skills and expertise and experience available in the community. And with regard to the deputy chair, we would recommend the position be filled so that we can cover the chair in the event of the chair not being able to fulfill their duties. That would just be a more resilient and robust committee.
Thank you. Okay, I open that for discussion. Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Bronwyn. Look, I do have a question, and it's more particularly around the options for appointment of a deputy chairperson, and under option 1 status quo, continue with the DLC as it stands, no deputy chairperson. I've just heard you say that there currently isn't one, but under the advantages, it says the DLC can continue as it has since it was established. I question that because my experience when I was on council, there was a deputy chairperson. So if there isn't in the last triennium, that would probably be the first time that there hasn't been one. And I find that odd.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you managed to function in the absence of the chairperson if you did not have a deputy. So I find that statement odd, and I definitely support the appointment of a deputy chairperson.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Berry.
I just have a question of Councillor Webb, whether she is the only councillor that's sitting on the committee at the moment. Is she interested in the deputy chair position?
Yeah, and I'm also interested in the chair position as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Sampson.
Can we just cut to the chase, and if Linda's happy to be the chair, I would like to go ahead and nominate the chair.
Councillor Berry.
I just have a question around that. If we nominate Linda for chair, then do we need another councillor to go on the committee to fill the deputy chair role? Should we be doing that now, or is that up for discussion? Is there anyone that's interested in going on the committee, be deputy chair?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, because Linda would become, sorry, Councillor Webb, would become the chair. We don't have an elected member as a list member at the moment.
Councillor Sampson.
But we could nominate another councillor for that role.
Yeah.
Okay.
Later on.
Or today. Yeah.
Or today.
I'll take the motion from Leslie.
It wasn't, I don't think it was a motion yet, but oh, you did you? Okay. Could you repeat that, please, Rosalie? I'm a bit hard to hear.
I move that Councillor Webb become the chair of the District Licensing Committee.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hinkston. Okay. Any discussion, more discussion on that? Councillor O'Keefe.
Discussion, I suppose it's discussion. I'd like to put forward that Phil Rutherford considers being deputy chair.
Okay, can we come back to that, Tony? We'll vote on the first one first.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
No problem.
Councillor Horse.
Yeah, I just think that, thanks, Councillor Rutherford, it was good thinking, and I believe it's the time to make the decision now for functionality of the committee, so I'm happy with that to go through.
Okay, thank you.
So can I just suggest that we just pause for a second while we get that resolution right?
Okay. Thank you, Simon. Okay, thanks everybody for your patience. So we've got a motion on the table and seconded. No other discussion? Yes, please.
So the motion is that Councillor Linda Webb be appointed as Chair of the District Licensing Committee effective from the 25th of November 2025.
Okay.
Rosie.
Rosie?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Councillor?
Oh,
That's okay. Okay, yeah.
Can I just question the date there? Obviously, being part of the District Licensing Committee at the moment, there are decisions being made probably today, tomorrow and that. So maybe just delaying, or how would that legally work in terms of Graham's got decisions in front of him today to make?
So Cromwell, just want to comment around the timing of that, talk about.
So our initial thinking was that if we appointed Mr. Nayland as a commissioner as at the 10th of October, then there would be a period that he would be able to take that role, continue that role until the chair was appointed. So if we have the chair appointed today, then any decisions for the future would need to be made by the chair, by the new chair. Unless that position was delayed for a few weeks, if that was a preferable answer.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of timing. I know I've got about 10 decisions that are obviously undecided yet. So what would be the best way forward so those decisions can come out without a delay?
From my point of view, through the chair, I would think that for the continuation of looking at whatever they've got at the moment, whatever Mr. Nayland's looking at the moment, that he should probably make those decisions, and then you would take over from a certain point in time.
So we could
Is
say
that something you agree?
1st of December?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay. So in terms of that first resolution, do we need to add, so we're going to add a date to that so what day would it be? Would it be from Sunday after the election or was it from the Friday? Just to cover.
I would do it from the Friday.
So we're going first.
Go from the top, I think. So we start from the top.
Oh, we still got that on the thing.
Yeah.
So that Councillor Linda Webb be appointed as Chair of the District Licensing Committee effective from the 1st of December 2025.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion, Councillor Reynolds?
Discussion on that. Would it be appropriate without a date?
Can you use your microphone? Sorry, Paul, can you use your mic?
Would it be appropriate without a date to say that the appointment of Councillor Webb is from the day that Councillor Nayland resigns? So that way there's flux there to move. Then those two will be able to work it out themselves at whatever time is needed for ex-Councillor Nayland to complete ones in the pipeline. Then he would resign and that date would become the one that Councillor Webb would continue without a date, because we don't know whether that date will be correct, will be sufficient for ex-Councillor Nayland to complete the ones in the pipeline. Yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I would say that the date of his resignation and then Councillor Webb takes over from that time. That's a good compromise.
Okay. Cadwell, could you read that out again? Third time lucky.
So
So do we need now to appoint? Right.
No, Cadwell's going to read out where it sits at the moment. Yeah, yeah.
Tony's got a question.
Oh, sorry, Tony.
gonna vote on the recommendations separately or
We're
because,
going to start by voting on the chair.
yeah, because I think Rosalie and Dave already moved and seconded that, didn't they, on that?
On this particular one.
Yeah.
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 So,
Unless the mover and seconder are happy to move the first three that still apply as well.
you happy?
Yeah, if you just read them out, and do things.
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay, the first one is, draft recommendation appoints, councillor Nayland, or Graham Nayland, Mr. rather, as Commissioner of the Buller District Council. That is licensing committee from the 10th of October, 2025. Number two, thanks Mr. Nayland for his expertise and service to the Buller District Council, District Licensing Committee, over the last 15 years. So let's do that first, shall we? Somebody like to move that? Yeah, we can come back to that. Okay, so Councillor Reynolds, second Councillor Hawes. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Okay, the next one we go on to is the Councillor Sampson's motion, which has been seconded. Okay, all those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Sorry.
And I'd like to move that we, on resignation, councillor Naylor, that we appoint councillor Rutherford to the deputy chair position. So I'll move that way.
Seconded by Councillor Webb. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Dave and Linda, I'm happy to amend my drinking habits in this nomination.
No, right. Okay, thank you, everybody. So, yes, yeah. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Rutherford now has to amend his drinking habits. So. Okay, thank you. So we're all set there? Okay, thank you, everybody, for that. Okay, we're on to item, excuse me, I've got a bad throat, 5.3, which is the establishment of the committees. You'll see from the structure that's been proposed that we've brought back that risk and audit and refined that after consultation with all the councils. I think that's what everybody was hoping for, and also the newly established Community Services Committee, which is and regulatory hearings. Okay, so this is returning it, I think, to the way it was before the last term. Also, in terms of relationship with iwi, we remain committed to deepening the partnership with Ngāti Waiwai and representation with the voting rights of the committee. This commitment was reinforced when we visited a marae and a joint council session. The meetings and the workshops will continue to be live streamed and recorded, and encourage the community to actively engage with us via mayor's chats, which will commence in the not too distant future for public forums, and also the submissions to that will be made and community outreach days. So there is a revised calendar that will support councillor well-being, while maintaining transparency and accountability to the public. The proposed meeting schedule and timing changes are a direct response to discussions that we've had and feedback from councillors, and have been consolidated into 2 days per month. The appointments to the committees and subcommittees were made after individual conversations with councillors. Also, feedback from, in my case, feedback from residents and also staff. And I think that the appointments that I proposed, take into account expertise, availability, and some of the things that are being worked through at the moment. Having said all of that, I'd like to move the report, all the recommendations in its entirety. Do I have a seconder?
Point of order, of course, Mr. Chair. I think under meeting procedure, we would first of all debate the recommendation that the report be received for information, which would, and you've sort of started that debate, wouldn't we now go into discussion before we go on to the other recommendations? That is, after all, the way that the agenda is set out.
Thank you, councillor.
Sorry to be pernickety. I just think if we get the procedures right, we'll...
Okay, I believe the procedure is correct, and I have moved and asked for a seconder. Seconded by Dave Hawes. Okay, we can open for discussion.
Have we got questions?
Yep. Yeah, councillor West.
So in terms of receiving the report for information, is that meaning that we are adopting this report? Just a clarification there. Are we, by receiving it and then discussing it and voting on it, is that passing everything in the report? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the mayor's moved recommendations 1 through 12 in its entirety.
Yeah. Sorry,
Colin.
Oh, sorry, Colin. Councillor.
Mr. Mayor, I hear where Councillor Kernow's coming from, but my understanding was there would be question time, and then the motion is moved and seconded, and then we have discussion/debate. So we haven't had the question time as yet, Mr. Chair, unless I've missed it.
Okay, well, I've taken advice, and I believe that what I've done is correct. So I have the motion on the table, which has been seconded. Councillor Curnow.
And now I'd like to speak to the motion. Is that the stage that we're at now? Yep. Okay, look, just and in doing so, first of all, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor, for putting together the framework for our governance arrangements over the next 3 years. I've sort of got some questions and some comments, and these are not all encompassing. I'm just focusing on some issues. In terms of the community committee, I note that the terms of reference are not as detailed as they were for the previous Community Environment and Services Committee. That committee had a responsibility for guiding and monitoring the provision of strategic community infrastructure and services to meet the current and future needs of the district and its community. Now, it doesn't explicitly say that in the terms of reference for the proposed committee, Community Services Committee, but of course it doesn't deny it either. So I would be working on the assumption that those key infrastructure assets in the community, things like the library, the theatre, and the council's housing stock, would come under the auspices of the community committee. So you might want to comment on that during the debate. The second thing is I just want to talk about the make reference to the economic development group. I see that there's a list of names of councillors who are attached to that group. There's no chairperson or convener nominated for that. Oh, my hand's going up for that role, by the way, but there might be other people who are interested. But so no terms of reference, doesn't appear anywhere in the meeting schedule, and it's not clear what the line of accountability and authority is for that committee. So I would like that clarified somewhere along the line. Just another comment too. It's we do need to get this right. I think I read somewhere through Local Government New Zealand. A 3-year council. You're there for about 1,100 days. You can afford to spend the first 100 days getting your structures and your work plan right. then you've got another 1,000 days to implement it. So I'm really, really keen that we get this right, and I think we've made really good progress so far. I've got some sort of questions about our work plan. Talked about the rates review earlier on. Do we have someone in mind within our group, within the council, for guiding that rates review? Do we have a timeline for that? I'm sure there are other issues, sort of work plan issues that we might want to consider pretty soon, and figure out the lines of accountability around those issues. So it's, more questions. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. They're all good points. Might ask Chrissy if you'd mind talking to the terms of reference.
Thank you, through the chair. Taking on some feedback from His Mayor Worship. The community committee was set up to primarily deal with the subcommittees, as they promote localism in our local communities, and just ensure that they've got some good support around the table, and also to deal with grants. Grants in the previous triennium was done via workshops and then recommendation to full council, which at times could be very time consuming. So it was a way of consolidating that and just making it a little bit more structured. With strategic plans and things like the reserve and hall reserve management plans, that is one of the amendments that Deputy Mayor Barry has put forward that is included in the terms of reference. So that is one amendment that we've made that I'm happy just to let you know exactly where that's going to be put in. Everything else will go through to full council. At the moment, we've got membership of the community committee as full council. That can be discussed amongst yourself as to whether or not you wanted to keep it at full membership or have fewer members. I believe everyone's fairly community focused, which is why His Mayor put that forward as full membership on a quarterly basis. So it has changed from a community and environment services committee, which we had the triennium before last, and the first year, I think, into the first triennium. And that has been redefined as just a community committee rather than the others, noting that the other things go straight back to full council. So I'm happy to take any further questions around that before I go to your next questions.
Well, I don't want to overuse my entitlement. So just for example, through the chair then, governance responsibility for library and the theatre. I know that there are some potential plans afoot. Will we expect to see proposals either somewhere within our structure that might be at full council, for example, and similarly with housing?
Through the chair, yes, that will come to full council, and because there'd be significant decisions to be made through full council, they'd potentially have an effect of the level of service. So those reports and decisions would be made in conjunction with the annual plan and long-term plans. So it would be full council that it would come to.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I have quite a number. Are we talking about the Councillor's Kernow's question, or is this more general?
You can make it more general.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I do have a number, quite a number. I find the terms of reference for the regulatory hearing committee to be a little bit ambiguous when a term talks about determined matters, but the committee may recommend delegated following recommendatory powers. I'm confused about when the committee can make a decision, and that's final, and that is the decision made by the committee, versus when it can make recommendations to council. So I'd like a bit of clarity around that. That's question one. I do have a question about, given that this is the structure for the triennium, I presume it is. I do have a question from you, Mr. Mayor, about some of the pre-election statements you made in terms of setting up a community board for the Seddon ward and potentially offering mayoralties to on both those boards. I see no reference to any of that in here, yet it's something that you indicated you were going to potentially do if you're elected. So I'd like some comment on that. Yeah, that might do it for me for a kick-off.
Okay, I ask, Chrissy, would you talk to the regulatory?
I may pass over to Ms Little, who might be able to answer the regulatory hearings. And if not, we will come back to you with an answer.
You're going to have to repeat that question, Councillor Rutherford.
Oh, sorry, okay.
That's
Well,
my fault.
Going through the terms of reference, I get confused about what the powers actually are.
Yep.
Do they have power to determine, or is it that they make recommendations only back to full council? Because there seems to be some ambiguity there.
Right, there are some things that can only be made through the chair, that can only be made by the council. And those are things like actual adoption of a bylaw or a policy. And there are other matters which can be delegated decisions on particular applications, can be made by the committee.
Yes, councillor.
It's 19. Exactly what that says. When it's here, it's I'll bring you now. The moment I bring you down. So yes, 19 states that it's recommendations to council or other committees as appropriate, rather than making decisions.
Thank you, councillor. Okay. Might move on to oh, sorry, Chrissy.
Through the chair, there was just a few other points that Councillor Kernell picked up on that I just wanted to respond to. So you brought up the working group, so that's not a formal committee of council. We did have working groups such as the senior housing working group in previous trienniums. So the councillors that have been appointed to that committee, the working group, would get together and work with a few staff to understand what the scope is, what they're looking to, and how often it would work for them to meet. So it's an informal working group, and there's some really passionate people around the table on this. So there wouldn't be a chair, so to speak, but it would be a working group towards goals that were talked about. There is usually at the end of each council meeting, the mayor will call out for verbal updates of committees, community boards, and that would be an opportunity for a spokesperson of the working group to say what they've been working on and provide any updates as necessary.
Just very quickly on that then, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hingston first, and then Councillor Reedy. And then Councillor
My comment is, I think there's a lot of work going on here, and I would say that just caution people not to let perfection get in the way of progress here. We can take this on, we can fine tune anything that needs fine tuning, and if necessary, we can change it throughout the process. So it's not set in stone for the next 3 years. And I think that anybody that would expect perfection is going to be sadly disappointed, whatever the outcome. So I would support strongly bringing it on board as the mayor has moved.
Thank you, councillor. If I may make a comment, what Councillor Hingston has articulated is really what I wrote to you all in terms of the structure that I was proposing, is that if we found that it wasn't working to all of our satisfaction, that we would revisit that during the term. Councillor Webb, oh sorry, what have we got here? Councillor Reedy, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Chair. Are we able to ask questions regarding the terms of references? Or is that coming after?
Now.
Do it now. Okay. We'll do that now, Councillor Reedy. Chrissy's got a few updates there.
Okay, in terms of reference, I've already got an email out, but I haven't had another response back yet. My concern is on page 133 regarding RAC, and it's item 6 regarding breakdowns in internal controls or incidents of fraud or malpractice. The chief executive's come back to me and said, well, I've already answered that through governance risks. Now, I'm afraid to say there are no issues of materiality in terms of, or degrees of materiality when it comes to fraud, incidents of fraud or malpractice. Fraud is fraud. And I want to know now, before this goes to the vote, whether or not fraud, malpractice, and anything else that is compromising internal controls will be brought to the attention of governance. The reason why I asked this, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, is because in the previous triennium, they had material, the word material before each of these instances. When I questioned it, needless to say, we in the beginning, about the midway through 2023, there was an instance of potential fraud, and I was informed that, oh, it's not material, we handled it ourselves. Well, I'm sorry to say, fraud is fraud, and I want to know about it now, not having it swept under the carpet. And so all I want now is an answer. I want an answer whether or not materiality, degrees of materiality, are reflected in internal controls, fraud, and malpractice. May I have an answer, please?
So through the chair, I think I did answer that question, councillor, but to be explicit, I'll read it. A material risk would cover all matters. So that's my response. So yes, I think I thought I answered it pretty clearly in my email to you. So it's, yes, of course, any fraud that was material would come forward.
No, if I can say, please, there's governance risks. It's in here. It talks about governance risks. And I'm sorry to say, when I read the response from you, that just talked about governance risks and coming through. We've got the risk register and so on and so forth. I understand that. I want something specific, please, on fraud, internal control breakdowns, and instances of malpractice and what have you. And I want a commitment, please, because this has, in the last 3 years, we all know what has happened. I don't want to bring it up now. We know what has happened, and I want to know that it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Thank you, Colin. I think that from what I hear, Simon has given you an answer to that question.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, and I want it on the table, please.
Point of order. I don't believe that this is a discussion for the council table here. I have no idea what councillor Reedy is alluding to, and I believe that it steps well outside the governance position that we should be adhering to here. So I have no idea what you're talking about, and by point of order, I don't believe this is the place to discuss it. The answer's been given.
Thank you, councillor. I'm going to recommend to the table that this be taken offline, and councillor Reedy and the CEO continue their discussion if that's necessary. Councillor Webb.
I have a few questions. Obviously, we have heard from one of the, well, two members of the Mokanui subcommittee during public forum. I know we've got space to talk about that later, but in terms of that, I really, I'll be voting against moving it as it is, because I think it's a real kick in the face for a Seddon ward councillor to be taken off a Seddon ward committee when she's put so much effort into this. And I really think that we should be respectful and increasing the mana of one of our elected members, one of our fellow colleagues, to actually keep her on that committee. And we've heard from two of the subcommittee members. We know that there's been some strife, but I'd ask how many meetings have the people, elected members around the table, actually attended over the last triennium at the Mokanui subcommittee, that you could actually pass comment that you've actually been there, been part of it, and been to every meeting.
Yes, councillor.
We're not talking about personalities. Respectfully, we're going to deal with that in the order of the agenda. And all we're talking about now is the governance structure. If you're going to move that, a Seddonville, based community, committee be set up and has to have a Seddonville, councillor there, that's one thing. But I don't see any point in bringing up who's going to sit on the seat now. I think there's a time and place for it.
That's what we are discussing, and it's part of, that's moved.
No, we're not discussing, as I understood it anyway.
We're discussing the.
Point of order, please,
We're
councillor.
discussing the governance board set up, structure in terms of, not discussing who's sitting on it.
Yes, we are. That's what would be moved, the paper in the entire.
Apologise, I misunderstood.
So can I carry on? Thank you. So I will not, I'll be voting against this paper in the entirety, that the fact that removes Tony from the position that she's held for the last 3 years. I think she's done a sterling job, and I would hesitate putting a Westport Ward councillor into one of the subcommittee. I'm really think that we need to be looking locals. You know, the whole point of the subcommittee is we are empowering locals to make localised decisions, and then putting a Westport Ward councillor in there would just be the same, like removing me from the Anangahua subcommittee and putting a Westport person that is out of context, not part of being local. So that's my first point. Also having Tony O'Keefe down as the OMAR Reserve Subcommittee, that kind of puzzles me as well. Last term, Councillor Weston held that role, and also the Carter's Beach. I really think that we should be appointing someone from the Westport Ward, or somebody that has an interest there. My second thing about the calendar, my third thing was also is about, there's no mention of having somebody kind of in charge or, you know, overseeing the Punakaiki area. I think that's a really important, obviously there's no hall or reserve that council owned, but I think it's really important. Last training we had Councillor Howard overseeing there, someone that has a good connection. I think it'd be really important to nominate somebody today or in the next meeting to kind of oversee Punakaiki that maybe have a connection. In the past, myself and Councillor O'Keefe were part of the rural communities, but we obviously are not part of that, and it's quite a distance from me to then head out to Punakaiki. Something to think about. The next thing I'll talk about is about the calendar. My question about the calendar is that it says that it won't, no workshops, where does it say there? No other, unless urgent, no other meetings / workshops to be booked outside these days. So my question, which always happens, we've had this discussion before about, you know, going down to 2 days and keeping these days, is never ever happened. In fact, last time we passed it, the first 4 months afterwards, we had a meeting or something on every single Wednesday. So we agreed on it, and it never happened. We had things like water done well, hearings, submissions, hearings booked in. We've obviously annually got the annual plan or long-term plan, hearing submissions. Are these going to be on those days indicators, or are they extras?
Okay, thanks, Councillor Webb. I think, you know, the fact that what you're bringing up is what happened, you know, during the last triennium. That was the last triennium. What we presented with here is a calendar to take into consideration as best as possible what staff have come up with, taking everybody's situation into consideration. Can I just answer a couple of other things too, picking up on Councillor Rutherford's question earlier on, because I think it relates to Punakaiki, and I would add Charleston to that as well. In terms of statements that I made before the election, and as far as a Seddon ward and the idea of calling the chairs of the Seddon ward in name only mayor, yes, they're ideas that I had before the election, and what I did say was that I would, if I was elected, I would propose to new council those things. That is not included in the structure because that's a discussion I'd like to have with Councillor Sampson and Councillor O'Keefe as to how we might go about doing that. So that's a discussion to have. Likewise with Punakaiki and Charleston, I take on board what Councillor Webb is saying. There has been some discussion on that as well. I think I would like to see the community committee take that up and decide how that's going to be handled. We haven't, while people might have been dedicated before, like Joe Howard and Graham Weston to that, what we're doing through this new structure is delegating as much as we possibly can to the new committees. And I'd like to see Councillor Barry as the chair, Councillor O'Keefe as the deputy chair, take that up and make those sorts of decisions. I do agree with you that as far as Punakaiki and Charleston are concerned, that yes, there should be somebody specific taking care of those areas, but I'll leave that to the committee to decide. Councillor Sampson.
Can I get an answer to that question about the calendar first, or have we moved on?
Okay, we can refer that to Chrissy.
Agenda. Thank you for your question.
I thought it was it's under, we're talking about the calendar, yeah, in this motion.
Okay,
yeah.
Councillor Webb, I think what we might do, because that's just slightly different, we might just hear Rosalie, who's been waiting patiently there, and then we'll come back to that.
Okay, it's just again regarding the appointments. I take on board what Councillor Dave Hickston said. It's not going to be perfection to start with. Let's get on with it and sort things. As far as the appointment for the Mokanui, yes, I have been there for many years representing the area. I understand what's being said. I concur with the two speakers from Mokanui, two of the subcommittee, but, and there's a big but, there's a lot of the final words that Mandy said, there is community conflict. And for that reason, I think a perfect solution would be putting Councillor Hingston there to level things out and we look at it. But as I say, Tony has done a brilliant job because I've been involved for many years there. And over the last number of months, there's been one hiccup to very, very large hiccups and taken, yeah. I just would like to see it be left the way it is. So I will not be voting for change.
Thank you, Councillor. And I might add to that, and you know, and Tony has been recognised in terms of the other appointments that are contained in the structure going forward too. And I think that is recognition of the work that has been put in by Councillor O'Keefe at Mokanui. Councillor Hawes.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I just wanted to just say from past experience within these reserves committees that it's not material that you are part of the community. I mean, I travelled to the Maruia Valley, which is quite remote in reality. It's virtually as far as travel. Well, it is as far as traveling to Mokanui from here or even further afield. And the thing that I found is that you know, it's often a good thing to be removed from that community a little bit because you can see all sides of the equation and it gives you a good balance. And your purpose in being there is just is actually as a representative council and to be rather impartial, to be honest. So in some respects, it's an irrelevant thing, but in other respects, it's often an advantageous thing. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hingston.
Thanks. And firstly, my apologies for being out of order with my point of order. I got somewhat confused in the whole things, not least of which was a technical thing. I couldn't get on with what we were voting about. Enough said there. What I would like to do is I'd like to move a motion that Tony O'Keefe be appointed the Mokanui Reserve and Hall Subcommittee Councillor. And I'd like to do that because of the basis of the feedback from the local community. And I respect and accept that Tony has turned the corner there. I know the councillors, Sampson and Dave's support, and I appreciate that, but I would like to go and support Tony in that appointment. I don't want to go in there, and it would be very clear I would be seen as an outsider, regardless of the impartiality of it. I think we just need to take a pause and listen to the community, and the community has spoken out and said, you know what, they're happy with Tony, and I would strongly support Tony in there, and I would strongly advocate for the council's point of view to send me in there to assist Tony, and I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, councillor. There is a motion on the table already that we haven't voted on yet, so we need to deal with that first. Is there anybody else? Yeah, we'll come back to your question, councillor. Councillor Reynolds.
Just an observation on what we're elected by.
Mike Paul.
We were elected by rule, but as councillors, I assume we represent everybody in the district. That's how I see myself. And although we should, I think it's a healthy move to see a councillor from outside a region, because it gets away from that stereotype as though an area's only got a certain representation, and they haven't. All of us here should be representatives of every person and every property in this district. And it's been general to have the representative of one area being appointed in that area, but it does rather stereotype it a little bit. I'm sure that in itself isn't healthy. As far as it causing an issue, I'm trying to go along with Councillor Hingston. If it's an issue, but it shouldn't be an issue because we all represent everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Sampson.
Yeah, I don't like to go on, but anybody that knows me knows that I am very, very passionate about the Seddon ward. And we heard from subcommittee members, we heard from 2 subcommittee members. There's a lot more people in the community than that. And all I do is I beg you to reconsider and just leave things as they are for at least 6 months or so, because like I say, there has been disquiet, and I would like to see things sorted out and flow on for staff time. It has been phenomenal, the amount of staff time that has been spent there. And as I say, I'm passionate about that area and I would like to see it. But just remember, we heard from 2 people who knew what was happening. There's a lot more than 2 people.
Thank you, councillor. And before councillor Rutherford has another question, and I might just pick up on a question Linda asked through the chair earlier on in terms of who else around the table has spoken to who else out there. I've spoken to the community and I've had feedback from the community. I've spoken to the staff and had feedback from the staff. And I've spoken to all of you around the table individually about pulling this structure together. My understanding is that the level of consultation that I've gone to really wasn't the level of consultation during the last council. I listened to what all you all had to say at our last meeting, and what I've done is I've gone out individually with you and really given you the opportunity to have the input which you have had. I agree that as far as the Seddon ward is concerned, I don't make the decision that I made lightly, but I have had feedback from more than 2 committee members at Mokanui. Hence, that is why I'm proposing a fresh look, a fresh set of eyes. And again, I'd remind councillors that what I did say to you is that by nominating Councillor Hingston, that we would review that after 6 months. Okay, Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'd like to second Councillor Higston's. Excuse me. If he makes it as an amendment to your motion, which is quite permissible at this point in proceedings. We could then have a vote on the amended motion, and it will either become the motion or not. And that way we can move forward. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a motion on the table now that if that motion fails, then an amendment can be moved, was my understanding, but let me check that with the experts.
Point of order, if I could make a contribution here. Point of order.
Can we just check that, please, Councillor Durno?
Before we,
we just wait and see what the advice is, please. Okay, we had some clarification. I call the meeting to order. My understanding now is because there is a motion on the table that to agree to hear an amendment that the mover and the seconder have to agree to that.
Point of order, if I could speak to a point of order, please, Mr. Mayor. That is not my understanding of usual meeting procedure. So what happens here is we have a substantive motion on the table. We have an amendment which has been moved and seconded. That then we would then debate that amendment. If the amendment is successful, then that is added to the substantive motion. If we vote on the amendment and there's a vote against it, then we return to the original substantive motion.
Thank you, Councillor.
I haven't quite finished, Mr. Mayor, with respect. I do think that we need to get our meeting procedure sorted out properly from the beginning. Otherwise, we're going to get into some very bad habits.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'm taking advice. Okay, Caitlin will check that. I'll ask Caitlin, if she'll please read out.
So to substitute a motion where that particular motion is subject to an amendment, the meeting may substitute the motion with the amendment, provided the mover and seconder of the original motion agree to its withdrawal. All members may speak to the substituted motion.
No. Councillor Halls. Yeah. So I think we need to answer Councillor Webb's question concerning the calendar, if we can, please, Chrissy.
Thank you through the chair. So thank you for those councillors that provided some feedback, those people that have commitments. So the survey responses that we got helped us set this schedule for next year. One of the things that Councillor Webb has brought up is correct. Last year was particularly heavy with long-term plan submissions and hearings. We also had local water done well, which is not usually part of council BAU. So there was more than there was before. What I can say is that although we'll have annual plan consultative process as well this year, we will try and keep it within those days as scheduled. There is there may be meetings that extend because of that, and we'll do what we can. But I do know that the senior leadership team have had a long discussion about putting this motion forward, that if you wanted to keep within those 2 days, that we were going to be very disciplined around it, and it would only be things that fall outside of the norm, but we would try and keep within those 2 days unless it's urgent. So I do note that potentially when it comes up for annual plan submissions, when people want to be heard, it depends how many people want to come and speak to council, and how long we need to put aside for hearings and deliberations. So potentially it's a good point that hasn't been raised before. Councillor Webb, thank you. Potentially that could be another additional day, but we'd keep it within the envelope absolutely as much as possible, with that commitment of the discipline around those 2 days.
Yes.
So in terms of if you're having a meeting starting at 1 PM and going backwards, does that mean in terms of a lunch break? So potentially we could be starting at 10 AM and then you're going to be scheduling, a break. So there could be an hour break. So my concern with that is at the moment, obviously working backwards from 3:30, we usually start at 1 o'clock for it, so that negates the need for another extra hour of lunch break. But given that some of us travel from Reefton and then we've got, or further afield, and then we suddenly have an hour break, whereas, people local can nip home and use their break productively. And so my concern is by going backwards up, we're going to then end up like a big break. Like for instance, today, there was scheduled break, 1 till 2, and then we didn't have a meeting till 4:30. So there was a huge gap. So that's my concern, that we are going to then start introducing, it's actually going to be a longer time period, because then we're potentially going to have an hour lunch break thrown in the mix.
Thank you for your question. Through the chair, we'd look at putting in a half-hour lunch break, noting that the standing orders currently say that there'll be break after 2 hours. So working backwards, we could have an hour at 10 o'clock, we could have an hour at 11 if required. There could be a half-hour break between 12 and 1 o'clock, and then the meeting starts at 1 o'clock with breaks as required through the standing orders process. So we would be cutting that down as much as possible. If there didn't need to be a break held because of the longevity of the meeting, it could be consolidated. But yes, there would be a short lunch break provided for those that were doing a 10 to 6 day, so to speak.
Councillor Berry.
So just a question again, Chrissy, if we had less briefings or workshops, then we would start later in the day. We would just start maybe at 1 o'clock and we would know that pre the meetings anyway. Everyone would be advised.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, so we would be putting placeholders in for the meetings as in front of you now. If there was nothing for the morning workshop, so there'd be placeholders. So just for those councillors that haven't been on board before, once this gets set, you get about 24 emails come through for placeholders. So if they weren't needed 2 weeks out, that would be cancelled. So you'd only have your 1 o'clock meeting. And also there were a few days that were identified through this process that if there was no workshops and there was no committee or committee meetings in that month, it might just be 1 day a month. But I do just again say that towards the annual plan time, and depending on what local water done well is doing, I can quite imagine that those secondary sessions would be needed.
Councillor Keith.
So it's been moved and seconded, and the motion was that you were moving recommendations 1 through to 12. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I'm not in favour of that. So just because there's lots of work to be done in here, I figure.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anybody else? Okay, I think as I move, I have the right to reply. Councillor Kearney.
I'm very much aware that some of us have had more than one contribution to this debate, and that's not regular. I'm reluctant to see this go to a split vote, and I would like to move an amendment to recommendation 1. The recommendation as amended would read: receive the report for information, refer it to a working group for further consideration with a view to a decision at the December full council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. As the mover, I don't agree with that. Councillor Halls.
That's your choice. I'll back the
Thank you. I think I have the final right of reply. I've heard what you've all said, and I'll pick up again on Linda's question, and I'll ask you around the table, who else has spoken to anybody else at Mokanui?
Point of order, that wasn't actually my question. My question was, how many people around the table have attended the Mokanui subcommittee, not who you've spoken to. So
I'll rephrase that then. Yeah, I'll rephrase it. How many people around the table have spoken to people at Mokanui and received feedback? Also more recently with staff, and understood the amount of time it has taken staff in dealing with issues that have been raised at Mokanui as well. Now, I have the right of reply, Councillor O'Keefe. I have the right of reply. Now, as I've said in the structure, I went to great lengths to consult with everybody on the structure, and you've had it for a few days now, and I've received no feedback. Councillor Webb, is there a problem? Okay, if I may carry on. So, again, I've done the consultation. I pick up on, some other mentions around the table. This is not about personalities. I've said that I'm happy to revisit this in 6 months, which I think goes some way to Councillor Curno's suggestion about putting it to a working group as well. I'm happy after 6 months to revisit this. If we pass the motion through 112, I'm happy with somebody to amend that. So it's official that we do that review after 6 months. With that, I'll put it to the vote. And that's to move 1 through 12. Are all those in favour? Against?
Name recorded, please.
So those against? Sorry, name recorded was, yeah. Sorry, Henry.
and Colin.
Name recorded, please.
Okay, so what have we got there, Caitlin? Okay, so the motion was lost, so we're going to adjourn for 5 minutes, and well, Caitlin's working on something for us. Thanks a lot. Oh, can I have a second of that? Was that you, councillor Kerno?
What was that?
To adjourn for 5 minutes. Okay, all those in favour? Okay. Okay, everybody. That was a long sort of 5 minutes. Can I call everybody to order? Councillor Reedy still there? Good. Okay, thanks everybody. As that motion was lost, I'm going to propose and move a motion to provide some direction and ask Caitlin if she would read that out, please.
So that the establishment of committees of council paper can be brought back to the table at the December council meeting, noting that the mayor and councillors will meet informally prior to this to discuss committee structure.
Okay, I've moved it. Councillor Curnow seconded it. Sure, Councillor Webb.
Will that discussion be an open workshop? Open to the public? Considering it's an agenda item.
No. Any other questions? Okay, we'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour? Okay. Those against? Councillor Reedy, did you get?
Mr. Mayor, my hand was up for quite a considerable amount of time in favour of the motion. My hand is up like this. Can you see it?
Thank you. No, I couldn't, Councillor Reedy. That's why I asked.
Is it up there now?
Yes, I can see that. Very good.
That's how it was before, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so what have we got there, Caitlin? Okay, so that motion is carried. We will schedule that as soon as possible. Thank you. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, so leading on from that, as that motion, well, the previous motion wasn't carried, agenda item 5.4 will stay tabled, and we'll pick that up again in December. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 5.5. Are we on? Okay, 5.5, Bulla District Council resident survey discussion. We'll hand that over to Chrissy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This survey is being tabled following the KPI that was put in place for the CEO regarding measuring satisfaction in our region. This is the first statistically valid response that we've had from our community, so it's going to start a baseline. We do note that there's a cost to this, which councillors have raised before, which we've acknowledged. That is the way that we are measuring it at the moment. We'll be repeating the survey in 2 months, and there's some next steps as outlined in the report. Happy to take any questions. 2 years, sorry, it's been a long day.
Okay, thank you, Chrissy. Councillor Rutherford.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move draft recommendation on the basis that we've already had a workshop of this. We know the content, for those of us who are present, and it's been provided, a paper's been provided to us, so I'm happy to move draft recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. We have a seconder, Councillor Barry. Any further discussion? Councillor Webb.
Just a question, in terms of the outcome of this, we were promised that we would have a review of our communication via the messenger. Is that happening? I apologise, I wasn't at the workshop, but is that going to be happening shortly now we've got the results of the survey?
So the review so we had a comms and engagement workshop briefing session last week. When was it? Yeah, it was a long time ago. And so we did talk about how this then fed into that discussion around how we might communicate better. It's interesting to note that the feedback from the survey did point to the community did get a lot of information from our Facebook page, the website, the Westport News, and I think then what's next with that? First off, no, it was the how people get information. So I think what we're trying to do is look at how we best communicate, whether that's in print in the future. We're still assessing. So we haven't got we've got an ongoing relationship with Connect through Messenger. Whether that continues, we will look at based on this. We wanted to put this in front of council and do that workshop and take it from there, so that we haven't made any final decisions and there's no review at this stage, no decision for that review. But I think there's a wider picture around how we communicate and how the community want to hear. So that's why I wanted this piece of work to be done.
So just a follow on to that, because obviously the briefing that wasn't live streamed. So my understanding wasn't live streamed on our YouTube. Will that briefing be available for the public to view?
So that was a briefing bringing councillors up to date as to what had been discussed previously.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a workshop to be live streamed, and there was commercially sensitive figures shared in that briefing, so it wouldn't be able to be shared.
Hence my question, obviously bringing it up in our public meeting, because obviously the public didn't go to that briefing and therefore didn't get that information around the print. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Kuno.
Just speaking in support of the motion, just a comment. The council did suffer some reputational damage, and I think we can reflect on that. It's what I think might have happened there is that significant decisions were made operationally that should have been brought to the governance table. That in this particular situation, the councillors were more attuned to the risks that were involved in certain operational decisions, and therefore it's at this table that those decisions should have been made. And that's something that I think we need to be aware of in the future in terms of the way that we're perceived by our community, that there will be more acceptance if it's seen that decisions are made by the elected councillors. So my message here is that we've got to get it right about the distinction between the operational side of our organisation and the political / governance side of our operation. And when we didn't quite get that right, there was a rebounding effect on the reputation of the council, and actually, quite a significant rebounding effect. Might have even had an impact on the outcome of the elections, and that shouldn't really have happened. So let's try and make sure we get that correct in the future.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Berry.
Just a comment around the survey as well, that actually the timing of it was probably quite fortunate, because it was a time when actually our community was politically engaged, and so I feel like that the information in it it's good to have a base measure to go forward with, and it is a good time to be surveying our community prior to an election because people are engaged.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just exercise my right of reply. Obviously, picking up on what Councillor Karamea mentioned in terms of the public perception of the way we go about handling our communication strategy, I'm pleased to hear from our CE that they'll be reviewing as a consequence of the survey, and I would just encourage that, in fact, any future decisions around how we communicate obviously staff can make recommendations to us, but I think the final decision has to be in the hands of this table, given, as Councillor Karamea said, it might seem a small matter, it's only a few dollars worth, almost a management decision, but the wider consequence on the perception of this council to our community is extremely important. So in closing, I'm just pleased to hear that there will be a review. And I'm pleased to hear that it will come back to this table.
Thank you, councillor. Okay, I think if you can repeat councillor Rutherford's recommendation, I think it's pretty much what we've got written here. Okay, so that the Buller District, recommendation that Buller District Council 2025 resident survey be received. All those in favour? Against?
Name recorded, please.
Thank you. That's carried. Yes, councillor Keith, did I miss something?
No.
No.
Table.
Lying on the table. Yeah, we'll come back to that in December. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But that's all right. Thanks for that. Keep your eye on me. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So we move on to next one now, 5.6. Okay, the gifting of Karamea water bore to Ministry of Education. Okay, and the draft recommendation is that one, receive the report, approve the transfer of the ownership, and notes that the licence occupied be issued to the Ministry of Education. So I open that up for discussion. And Anthony will talk about that. Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Thank you through the chair. So this report's about a water bore, historic water bore, that currently only supplies the local school. They built some infrastructure to treat that water. And I think it was a little bit of a surprise to find that because it's on council land, it's a council asset. It wasn't one of our asset registers, so we hadn't been monitoring it. The history of it is it used to supply camping ground and the bowling club, sorry, which now have their own separate supplies, so don't rely on it. Our long-term plan and our 30-year strategy have no need for that. There's no long-term plan, and there are no plans to have reticulated water in that area. Given that the school are the only user, it makes sense for them to have ownership of the bore, and as a consequence of that, then we would issue them a licence to occupy for the location of their treatment plant, which is on our land. The school and the Ministry of Education are very keen for this. We've been pushing for this for some time.
Thank you. Councillor Sampson and then Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, I could give a little bit of a different potted history, but anyway, that's all fine. I'll accept that, and I'm happy to move recommendation 1 to 3.
Is that a seconder from Councillor Keith? Okay. Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Basically in favour of it as well, but might have a question. Given that it is a council asset, even though it's not on the register, and we're acknowledging ownership by, as we are, by transferring the ownership, why don't we sell it to them?
I think, firstly, Ministry of Education and schools typically can't afford that. And if we continued to own it because they weren't prepared to pay for it, we would end up with a significant liability, which is detailed further in the report in terms of, and possibly reflective of the briefing from Tamara Arawai earlier. We would own that liability, which we actually don't need.
Thank you. Councillor Reynolds and then Councillor Sampson.
There was a case some years ago where an education board property on Hazelden Street subdivided, and when they went to record the land transfer, they told they weren't allowed to subdivide it because they didn't own it. The council owned it. The council had forgotten to send them the lease for 30 years. So the Ministry of Education is better off by 30 years of lease. So if we reclaimed a few $1,000s out of it, at least it'd be at least some sort of comeback for what was a windfall for the Ministry of Education in a prior time from this council.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Halls.
Councillor Sampson might be able to educate me if I'm wrong, but I believe we've been through this process, and that's why we went to the tank farm at the reserve to provide the water supply. So I was at a previous council and of the understanding that the transfer to the education department was happening, and that the reasons then were that they couldn't operate it to provide to the campground and the other user, because that then put them in the position of being a water supply and having to meet treatment standards and all sorts of other things. So perhaps Councillor Sampson can tell me if I'm wrong.
Through the chair, you're completely right. And as I said, I could give a bit more history than what is in here. And because we'd had 3 goes at river in Karamea and we never got it. At that time, when that board was put down, the education board tried to work with council, but I think got a wee bit greedy, and they went ahead with the school and we leased it, and the Department of Education have got all the infrastructure at their cost in there. So I think if it's not on our register, let's get it on, and I think it won't be needed. And if we did, for some miraculous reason, decided we needed a water scheme in Karamea, well, we could possibly find a ball alongside.
Thank you, Councillor. Very good to have the knowledge around the table, isn't it? Okay, thank you. So I think we've got the motion. Okay, motion on the table. It's been moved by Councillor Sampson, seconded by Councillor O'Keefe. If there's nothing else, we'll take a vote. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Making good progress. Okay, the next item on the agenda. Okay, Buller Holdings Limited, item 5.7, Buller Holdings Limited annual report, 30th of June 25. A draft recommendation that the annual report from John Salmon, Corporate and Strategic Planning Manager, dated 25th of November, be received. And if we can ask John if you'd like to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, councillors. Yeah, I'll keep this one quite brief and take the report as read, but there's just one thing I thought I would point out. Usually we, as staff, are the ones that present this annual report to the table. However, moving forward, we have agreed with Buller Holdings that they will present their annual report as well as their quarterly financials to the council. It makes sense for them to do that, and the CEO and their GM have agreed that that's the best thing for them to do moving forward. So you can ask questions of the holdings company if you have any based on their annual reports. One thing I also obviously wanted to point out was this annual report. We have had the mayor and the deputy mayor as the proxy vote at the AGM back at the start of November. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions, but yeah, I'll take the report as read if possible.
Thank you, John. Any questions? No questions? Oh, sorry, Colin. I keep forgetting to look up. Yes, Colin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed I note the audit report was signed off on the 26th of the 9th. The legislation states that for a CCO, which Buller Holdings is, it must be within 3 months of the end of the financial year that the report is received by council. I raised this question last year, and this year we've still got the same. We are not meeting our statutory obligations in both airport, Buller Holdings, and as we know, BDC. And it just seems to be ongoing. So why was this not report? I know it's got to go through the AGM and what have you. As I said before, it was going to be discussed with Buller Holdings last year, and now we're in the same situation as we are now. Are we going to follow legislation or just let it ride?
Thank you, councillor. That's a good question, and thank you for asking it. That's something, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to answer this evening. However, what the answer I can give you is that certainly moving forward, I'm absolutely aware of the legislation, and certainly what we'll do is take up with the holdings company through the chief executive to ensure that for next year we get the report within that necessary timeframe. Thank you, John. Councillor Hingston.
Yeah, just by way of suggestion, are we going to send them a letter to remind them of their statutory obligations, as far as Colin mentioned, and give them a bit of a G up so that they're required to do that?
Good, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hingston. Yeah, and as part of the next report, obviously the letter of expectation, we can include that as an objective for them. But I was speaking to the chief executive last week, and they are fully aware of the legislative requirements. However, if the suggestion is that we send a letter to them, we absolutely can do that. If that's something that the table want to see.
It just seems to me to be good governance to have it in paper on record.
We can certainly include it as part of the letter of expectation.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay. Anybody else? We good? Okay, so we have the motion on the table. Let's just check that. Yep. So nobody's moved that yet. Okay, would somebody like to move that? Councillor Berry, seconded, Councillor Hingston. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 5.8 on the agenda, Buller Holdings Limited letter of expectation, which is what we were just talking about, I guess. 26-27 discussion. If I can pass that on for staff to talk to, please. Thank you, Your Worship. Similar to the previous report, I will take this one as read. However, I have, as you'll see in the report, there are a couple of key changes that we have updated. The agreement last year for the shareholder distribution was that we're going to have $800,000 as the dividend distribution, 800 for the next financial year, and for the 27-28 financial year, that would increase to 900. However, we have increased the distribution that we're asking of Buller Holdings from 800,000 to $1 million for the 26-27 financial year. The reason for that is in two parts. We are fully aware of the affordability issues that our district faces, but also based on the delivery of Buller Holdings for the previous financial year. So I'm certainly happy to take any questions on that. And the other objective that we'll put in is around the BHL supporting the ongoing transition to the new West Coast Water Services CCO, as clearly that will have a big impact on their business, and we want to make sure that they're on board as quickly as it possibly can, because it's important and it's such a significant goal for that business as well. Thank you. Councillor Perry. Thank you, John.
Through the chair, John, just when at that annual report meeting, I did question why we had lost 500k in that return, and they said it was they're looking at capital investment. So it has this discussion around the increase being had with Westbury, with Holdings, around the increase.
Okay, through the chair, Simon, if I could just ask you to answer that one. I know you met with the chief executive last week.
So I did meet with the chief executive last week and did highlight that we were going to propose an increase from what we had originally agreed, and that was noted. But I haven't talked to the chair about it, but that's fed back through the chief executive to the chair, Steve Gray.
Any other questions of staff? Councillor Keith. Microphone, please, Tony. Thank you.
I'm happy to move one, but make amendment to two, which is Councillor Dave Hingston said, with the a letter of asking or maybe requiring them they stick to their statutory obligations for BDC. And happy to pass 3 as it is.
Okay, thank you, councillor. Do we have councillor Hingston? Okay. Any discussion on that, councillor Ennis? Microphone.
Just a question, if we expect a greater profit from them, does that mean they just charge us more for services that they provide to council?
Through the chair, we have, for the Westreach subsidiary, we have strong contracts in place which have rates and values against it, so we hold them to account. For larger pieces of work, we often go to market to ensure that we are getting value for money. So I think we can be confident that the prices being charged remain competitive.
Thank you, Anthony. Councillor Hawes.
Yeah, I believe that we have a company that has got a pretty good split in terms of outside work to inside work. Well, that was the case, and I believe it was better than 50-50. So therefore, even if we did and there were some transgressions, at least 50% is a gain.
Thank you, councillor. Okay, we have a motion on the table from councillor Keith and a seconded by councillor Hingston. If there's no further discussion, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. We're on to item 6.1, the Chief Executive, excuse my throat, Officer's report. Simon.
Through the chair, so here's my standard report. Just noting that I wasn't able to include a full legislation tracker update this month due to the availability of information and the timing of today's agenda. But I have included an update on the emergency management bill, which is moving through at pace. Yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett and then Councillor Kuhn.
In your report, you noted that there were concerns around the local water done well transition and the pressure it puts on staff with the extra work as opposed to business as usual. There is a concern around that, and have we got anything in place to try and manage that, or is it just being monitored?
So the 3 CEs meet regularly to work through, so that we have working streams, and John is leading that for us. And there is a lot of work coming through. So I'm just really flagging that BAU is something we're continuing to monitor, because obviously we still have to do our day jobs. And so we are looking at how we might backfill positions and what that means in terms of cost. We're capturing all the existing costs, and the idea is that with the transitions across to the new entity, those costs will go with it. But obviously there's a cash flow issue at the moment. But as it ramps up, the CEs are just thinking about what that might mean. In our water service delivery plan for the coast, we've identified about 5 million, so 5 million? Yeah, for those transition costs, which will be part of that work. So we're just working through with the CEs, and we're meeting next week off-site to work through what that means. But it's just at the moment we're monitoring, but it is, we are signalling that it is something we just can't do as part of our regular BAU.
Okay, Councillor, we'll come back to you, Shane.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Councillor Kerner.
Yeah, look, just as a new councillor, Simon, I'm very interested in finding out more about the Whanaki Tanga project. Not the other new councillors in the same boat. Are you able to feed us specs and background information on that so we're up to speed?
I can certainly, I can circulate some information about the Tamakitunga steering group and how that works. So that's chaired by Phil Rossiter, and Phil has injected new life into it. So it'll be something that, so that's made up of the CEOs and various reps from various industries. But it is a very useful group and it has a good action plan, but I'm happy to circulate some information. So you're all on the same page.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very, very trivial item on page 296, which was item 11, external relationships. Tuesday, 28 October, the Mayor and I met. Actually, it's the Mayor-elect. We weren't sworn in until the 29th. A minor point, but just wanted on the table, that's all.
Noted. Thank you, Councillor Reedy. Okay, Councillor Barry.
Just going back to my previous question around local audit and wellbeing. So before we can transfer anything to the CTO, have we built anything or do we need to build anything into our annual plan budget to cover costs in the interim?
So that's one thing we're discussing about how that might look. As I say, it was part of our water service delivery plan. It was identified we needed some transition funding. That would come from the LGFA in terms of a loan. But it's the servicing of that cost between now and the establishment of the entity that we need to work through. But I suppose the local water service delivery plan was consulted on in the broader sense, and it was adopted by the 3 councils. So we're just working through what that really means and what the cost might be at this stage. But we'll come back with further information.
Thank you, Simon. Councillor O'Keefe, did you have a?
Yeah, through the chair, I was just going to add one thing to that. Just in terms of staff resource, Deputy Mayor, what we've established as part of the last working group meeting just last week, actually, we're capturing every hour that staff's putting towards this, so that we know that that money can be capitalised onto the new entity, starting from when the agreement at council was to go ahead and create one, so that you know none of the councils lose out essentially. So it is a big conversation. We've got a full day workshop tomorrow, but certainly I certainly know that the Cs will be. I think that's the next protocol, is to understand the milestone in terms of funding, how we service the debt. The expectation on council is that the council will not be left in a worse position than they are now in terms of the transition costs. But it's not, like I say, the full transition cost will be capitalised, but it's the ongoing interest that's how we're going to service that.
Yeah, and just as a reminder to those councillors as well, we do have we were given $250,000 from the DIA, which Buller administers on behalf of the 3 councils. So that's funded the work up until now. Basically up until the end of the year, I think, all that work that's been done. But going into next year, that's when we need another conversation.
Thank you, Simon. Councillor O'Keefe. Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. I have seconded for that, Councillor Rutherford. Thank you. Is there any further? Oh, sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Sorry.
Close yet, have they? Look, in terms of the national adaptation framework, Simon, I take it that we're going to be required to put together a spatial plan, yeah, and describe what that means to us, costs, how we go about resourcing it, etc., etc.
At this point, I would turn to Simon Bastian, and unfortunately, he's not here. I can ask Simon to provide some feedback, because that's not something I'll be able to talk to with any confidence. But I can get Simon to talk to you. He's gone home sick, unfortunately.
Can I just add that I've just been reading the Radio New Zealand release, and they talked about regional spatial plans now, so God knows where we're going. Yeah. Sorry, I will see you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, if there's no more discussion, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Sampson, you're in favour? Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, if I can just make comment, I think I'm speaking on behalf of, or hope I'm speaking on behalf of all councillors to extend our thanks to Simon and all of the staff for the enormous support and professionalism during this transition. I think we as, certainly as new people around the table, you know, have probably been a little bit overwhelmed with the number of meetings and what's been coming at us, but I think we should remember that we've been attending these meetings while our staff have day jobs as well. So I'd like to express my thanks for all the assistance that I've been given. And so we've got a little machine here in Caitlin who is teaching me a lot as we go. So from my point of view, also to councillors, thanks for your patience. So the draft recommendation has been carried. That leaves us to discuss the public forum speaker and how we should respond. So I'm happy to open that to the table. Councillor Curnow.
That's reasonably straightforward. We've responded here that we've made a decision to defer the final decision until the next meeting.
Thank you.
And obviously thank you for your contribution.
Thank you, councillor.
That says it.
I believe it does. Does anybody have anything else to add? Okay. That we'll arrange then.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Catherine. Okay, with that, we'll bring the meeting to close. Sorry,
We're going to go into public exposure.
yeah.
So
Okay.
this is your recommendation.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so we're now going to move into public excluded. And the recommendation for that, let's just catch up with it. Okay, the public be excluded from the following parts of the proceedings of the meeting. Agenda item 7, insurance cover replacement 25 to 26.
You don't need to read it.
Okay, thank you.
Don't want to.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if I could have somebody move that. Councillor Hawes, seconded by Councillor O'Keefe. Thank you. All in favour? Against? Thank you, Councillor Reddy. I saw you that time.